Okay, we're live. Sorry we got delayed by a few minutes. I'm just gonna wait for people to get on. Hi. We got delayed a little bit. Oh, there's Rivkie. I'm gonna see. Oh, she requested to join. Let's see if this is gonna work. Oh, did that work? Oh, okay. Here we go. Hi. Okay, we're hearing some music in the background. My baby is just going to sleep in the carriage and he's just talking loud. I don't see you. Is it me or is it you?
No, I can see you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, and I can hear you. Could everybody else see both of us? I wonder.
Let us know in the comments if you see us
Yeah.
both, if you hear us both well, and then we can start. Okay, my baby still didn't fall asleep, so he's making some background music for us. Yeah, this is like a perfect conversation to have now. For those of you who don't know, I had a baby a few months ago, so it's like a whole different ball game now. So yeah, I'm excited for this conversation, and we've been waiting a while, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we can start. So I've been wanting to do this a long time. A topic that comes up a lot on my page when we talk about resting at menstruation or self-care in general is a huge topic with cycle awareness. And then a big question that keeps coming up, like, hi, I have kids. Like, I'm not getting that retreat that you're talking about. Like, it sounds really nice and rosy, but not practical. And sometimes I put out a picture of something that's like maybe ideal or like perfection, but like we're not really like we live a real life. So I just want you to have a picture of what it could look like sometimes, but it doesn't mean that that's what it's going to look like all the time. And just to have that vision, that idea that we are meant to slow down and we are meant to live cyclically along with our, as feminine, as female human beings. That's what we have. And when we honor that, it ends up paying us back big time. But Rivkie is, I'm just going to introduce you a little bit and then you'll take the floor. Rivkie is really passionate about when we're parenting, it's not just about the kids. We have needs as well, and we nurture ourselves as mothers, even as we nurture and mother our kids. So it really both can exist at the same time, and I love that concept. I think it's really beautiful and true, and we're not meant to sacrifice ourselves on the altar. So yeah, take it away, Rivkie.
Okay. Thank you. Like, on a practical level, like, ultimately it doesn't even serve our children when we wear ourselves out, and we all know that. But it's also kind of like on an energetic level, I think about it a lot, how in a way what often happens is we're not including ourselves in the equation of whatever is happening, and it's just so natural for us to do that. Like, so many of us struggle with that. It's normal. But in a way we may think that, oh, I'm giving to my child, I'm doing for them. But I wonder if sometimes when we're giving so much and we're not including ourselves, what's happening is they're actually getting they're not getting the experience of a whole mother. Their mother is not a whole person in a sense.
Right.
Because all they're getting is the part of their mother that's giving to them, and not the part their mother is they're not getting the experience of a mother who's also taking care of herself, who's also her own person. So it's kind of like, I feel like in a way, the word that comes to mind is kind of like, it's like kind of lopsided, where, wholeness to me feels like there's grounded, there's stability. Ourselves in the big picture. It's lopsided in a way. And again, I say this without any judgment because, like, I do this also. I don't want it to come across like, wow, we're so terrible for doing this. It makes so much bringing like awareness. We want to bring awareness.
It looks like you don't have the best connection. You want to check Wi-Fi or something? It looks like you don't have the best connection. It keeps going in and out.
Can you hear me now better?
Yeah, I hear you now. I see you. Let's see if it works.
Okay, good. So yeah, like, I don't know where I might have been getting cut off, but when I say this, like, again, I really want it to be like clear that it's not like a judgment on any of us, and it's more about bringing awareness that, and also like just we deserve to be included in the equation. We're all humans. We're all valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, and just thinking of a family, right? Like, oh, we think of the husband and kids, but like you're also a person in the equation who's taking care of you, right?
Right. Exactly. And now we're adults, and so it's our responsibility to care for ourselves, which can
Or
sometimes.
sometimes to let ourselves be cared for and nurtured. Sometimes that's also part of the equation to receive, to actively receive.
Right. Right. For sure, to
Mhm.
receive. But in other words, like, we're not children anymore.
Right.
We're, all of our needs are being taken care of by, hopefully, by parents. It's not like that
Right.
anymore. And yeah, I mean, sometimes, like, some a lot of times there's so much content out there about self-care, about taking care of ourselves. And I think the part that gets challenging sometimes is that there's the messages that we need to take care of ourselves so that we can
Right.
take care of everyone else. And that now it became another item on a checklist. Now it became another
Right.
item on a to-do
And the thing
list.
about it is it's true, really intrinsically it's true that when we care for ourselves, we do show up better for others. But when we make
Yeah,
that the goal, it really defeats the purpose in a way.
exactly. Exactly. Um,
Yeah.
1 minute.
Yeah, I think that's a big one, how we are we're human and we're also a mother. It's not like the humanness doesn't go away and the parts that we, need to be cared for. And just even, and when we talk about self-care, it's very general. We mean basic self-care, like eating, sleeping, drinking, like the basics, and then also like the nice frilly stuff that are nice to put in sometimes as well. Like that's also important. It makes us feel like, pampered and cared for. So it's not just that and it's not just that. It's really the whole picture of what we need.
Yeah, for sure. I sometimes also think that, like we were talking about, you and I, when we were discussing earlier, like sometimes the word self-care just has like associations of almost pressure. I remember feeling that way, like we were saying before, like it became a thing on a to-do list now. Like, now I have to get this off my list. Take care of myself, like, phew, now I got it over with. Like, no. And in a way, so I try to find different words. Like, it's not about self-care, it's about, what was the word that I said?
You said self-renewal. I loved it. It really resonated deeply.
1 minute. I'm sorry, 1 minute.
So the word she was saying was self-renewal, and I thought that was beautiful because what we talk here about cycle awareness and renewing ourselves each month or with each cycle, it's a really beautiful way to look at it. Like we're literally being renewed, and when we care for ourselves, we're taking an active part in the process.
Right. And then, like, sometimes giving it a different word can help us, like, connect to the concept in a new way, because sometimes the word, for me, if I think the word self-care, I just have all these associations. So thinking about it in a different way, giving it a new word, helps me approach the experience of taking care of myself like with a fresh, like with a clean slate, you know?
Yes, so I actually love the word nurture. I know we were playing around with that too because we're talking about motherhood here, and the essence of motherhood is nurture, and that's what we're directing outward. But at the same time, we need to direct it inward as well. And it's not like I actually just posted something yesterday, I think, about menstruation being our home base, and like we keep going out and out and out and pushing our energy outward, and like there needs to be that coming back inward as well because it just can't go out all the time without like being burnt out at the end. So it was really that concept of like directing the light inward, directing the nurture inward. I mean, there's this beautiful concept about the moon, right? Like the new moon, we don't see anything; it's dark for us. Like we're not getting anything from it, but the moon is actually getting everything, absorbing all the light from the sun. So it's receiving 100%, and then it's going to come around back to the full moon place where it's going to give back, and we're going to receive the light and the reflection of the moon. But at that point, by the new moon, that's when we're not seeing anything. For us, it looks dark, but that's when it's actually replenishing, so to speak.
Oh, wow. I love it. I just have to say, by the way, I've learned so much from you, and the content that you share, literally so much, like, it's changed so much. It's just unbelievable. And it's like, this felt like a good, like, wow. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
The home base and the idea of the home base, like, unbelievable. Like, for sure. I see it even, the idea of like a cycle, even within my day, that there are it's like there's the miniature and it gets bigger and bigger, and there's the cycle of the year, right? But like even in my day, I notice that there are some days where I actually take time to take a rest in the middle of the day or the late afternoon. I'm refreshed for the rest of the day. I come to bedtime actually energized. I'm able to be so much more present at the end of the day, and I'm not always able to do that, but it's just interesting to see, like, there is a cycle in the day too where I can't go all day straight forever. I just can't.
Right. Yeah, totally. Wow. So, like, let's go to the conversation of, like, practically speaking, what would it look like if, okay, we know we need to care for ourselves. We know all that. Like, don't tell us more about that. Like, we know that part. Then, how do we make that happen? Like, practically speaking, we have different things going on during the day. My baby's finding this very funny. What would you say practically for parents, and just even from your own experience, how would that work?
Yeah, well, so I would want to like go back a few steps, and there's something I wanted to add earlier when you were talking about self-care. Like, you were talking about, like, there's the practical, like just eating, drinking, sleeping, and then there's the more luxurious form of self-care. And I also see the concept of nurturing ourselves and caring for ourselves as something also more like on the emotional spectrum, in the sense that I want that the caring for myself starts to come from a place of deep, of valuing myself. That when I'm sinking into a deeper sense of understanding how valuable I am, how worthy I am, just for being here and being born and being on this planet, that gives me infinite self-worth. And so when I'm conscious of that, when I'm able to bring that up into my consciousness, like mindfully, when I'm doing something for myself, it magnifies the impact of whatever it is I'm doing like 1,000 times. So, for example, and then, like, I often say, like, anything I do can now become nurturing. It could be anything. It could be something very, very mundane. It could be washing the dishes, could turn into a nurturing experience when I'm approaching it from a place of intention and from a place of slowing down. Also, I talk a lot about slowing down the process. Like, instead of being it like, let me check this off the list, it's like, how can I sink into the physical sensory experience of what I'm doing, and like slow down the process of what I'm doing, and now it could become nurturing. So anything could be nurturing. But
Yeah, I love when you were talking about, sorry to interrupt, but just when you were talking about that, that concept of anything, it's just really the mindset of mind over matter, basically, of more than how we approach something than what it actually is. Something that, first of all, just the accessibility of that, right? Like, we can access that anywhere. It doesn't matter if we're able to go to a spa and have time for an appointment. Whoa. It's funny when mommy talks. So the what was I going to say? Oh, just something that resonated for me as well with that was how, and this is also a big part of what I want to bring out of this live, is the difference of showing up as a parent from a place of doing, and a difference of showing up from a place of being. And both are important. We're not negating one over the other. But when the being, how we are as a parent, is just as important to our kids than what we do as a parent, right? So the being part, that's what's really going to be affected so much. The doing as well, but the being so much more by how we care for ourselves, how we show up for ourselves, who we are. Like, that takes the cake. Like, that's what our children see, and that's what they need from us. They need us to, like, show up as we are. So I thought that was really cool, how, like, the being and being present and with whatever is, like, that's so important for me.
I love that. It's a new idea to me. The idea of being is something that I'm only starting to understand recently. And it makes sense because, like, yeah, our society is really very much founded on the premise of doing. Everywhere we look, the messages are about doing. And so it's very, like, counterintuitive to start to learn about what it means to be. And I even recognize that I still don't fully grasp it. I don't fully grasp it. And yet I feel like I'm at a point where I understand enough of what it means to be, that I know, like, I'm going to gradually continue to understand it. It's going to continue to like become a part of who I am. But yeah, being is like, it's just, it brings to mind presence. It brings to mind stillness. That's what comes to my mind when I think about it.
All things feminine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, um, so we were talking about like the practical end,
Yeah.
right? So I know in my experience that very often when I find myself in a place of, I would say, all or nothing thinking or black and white, or I feel like I need things to be like perfect in my life, it's usually at a point where I'm in a very, very deep deficit in that area, whatever it is. Like, let's say it was, when I was at a point where I felt where I felt like I needed to be a perfect mother. I really felt I was like craving perfection as a mother. And that was at a point where I really was, I was really at a deficit in my life of at feeling any pride or goodness in my mothering, and so therefore, like, I'm craving that perfection. And I think that could sometimes show up in how we care for ourselves, because when we haven't been cared for enough, or when it wasn't something we knew how to do for ourselves, and so we're just running on so empty, so then it could be that what we end up feeling like, I can't, just taking a bath is not enough. I need so much more. Like, it's a waste of time. Why am I just going to take one little bath in the middle of a week, or whatever it is? Like, when we kind of like, it's very hard to look at caring for ourselves in the nuances and the little tiny baby steps, or in just changing a little something in how we do things when we're really, really running on empty. So if I'm saying that to say that if the idea of increasing our caring for ourselves, like just by a nuance, just by a little tiny bit, feels like useless, it just could be that this could mean that someone's at a place where they're really, really running on empty. And I so understand it. I have so much compassion for it, and I get it. I'm there too.
Yeah.
Like, we all get there at times, So just to hold space for that, like that, it's and just to know that, yeah, then it's actually the greatest time to start to bring in the little tiny baby steps, because they will make a difference over time. They really, really will.
Yeah, and I really love what you're saying, because I keep saying that as well when it comes to menstrual cycle awareness, because people always think, I mean, not always think, but like we have, like you said, the black and white mentality, right? Like, oh, this is perfection, so let me aim for that. And that's right away gonna just like, not a great idea. So what I keep saying is the 1% shift. Like, literally, if you just change 1%, if you just shift, like, whether it's doing something nice for yourself during menstruation to like honor that time in whatever way possible. I know it's like, let's say practically for when we're on our period, or any time when we need more rest. So nothing changes in our linear schedule, right? Like, everything stays the same. Like, whether it's working, whether it's just being home with the kids, whatever it is. So let's say someone needs a nap that day, or let's say they just want to like have a day off and not have to do anything. Maybe that's a stretch. Maybe that's not something that it's practical in this stage of life. And sometimes, yeah, it depends how you can work it out. But because we can't have like 100%, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't take what we can have, and that can be nurturing as well. I mean, maybe it won't be the same level, but I know for myself, I'll talk for myself for a second. Like, I have, like, I'm very ambitious. So like, I want to like do things all the way. And then if I don't have access to like something that's amazing for what I need right now, then it's like, oh, why should I even try? Why bother? Like, I won't have that same pleasure that I really need. I won't have that same fulfillment or nurture that I really need right now. But then I'm robbing myself of the 80% or the 50% or even 1%, whatever it is. Like, what's better, 0% or 50%, right? So sometimes there's a lot of negotiation involved as well. But what I found also is, even like, our body thanks us. Like, even if we're just doing 1% or 10%, it's like, whoa, you're taking care of me. Thank you. Like, we can really start to notice that, and slowly, like, maybe even build up more on that if possible. But even just a little bit goes a long way.
Yeah, I learned this from this wonderful nutritionist that I worked with for a little while, who she was a nutritionist that worked from the mindset of intuitive eating and haze. And what she brought to my perspective was like, where, you know, again, so much of the messages that we hear around us, it sounds like we need to, you know, our food has to be 100% all the time. And sorry about that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It sounds like our food has to be 100%. And what she helped me realize how, like, I could bring just a nuance of nutrition or nurture into my food, and it makes a difference. It doesn't have to be 100%. It doesn't even have to be 50%. If all I could do now is 1%, that's my life. That's my real life. I'm living in my real life right now.
Yeah.
I just made a post about this, like about parenting too, like how, you know, it's similar with gentle parenting or conscious parenting, and all of the information is so valuable, but at the same time, when we bring it into our real life where we are right now and we filter it through what we're able to manage right now, it's real, it's sustainable, you know? So yeah,
Yeah.
1%.
Yes, I think that's a great example. Somebody was asking, give an example for the 1% versus 80%. So that would be one example, let's say with food, or however, let's say you could take care of yourself. Or let's say,
Yeah.
you know, let's say with food, like instead of making yourself a gourmet meal, which might not be possible, you know, have something that's 50% gourmet or 80% gourmet. Like that, even the word gourmet, we could take out of there because maybe that's not always, I don't even think that's ever, I don't know, unless you go out to a restaurant or something, I don't know. But another way to think of the 1% is also with rest, right? Like let's say 100% would be taking a nap for 2 hours, but no way is that happening if the kids are up and it's not practical for you. Then what could be a 1% if you're really tired and you need rest, and a
Yeah.
nap is not practical right now.
I just did this yesterday. I was exhausted at one point, like really exhausted, and I had been working hard. Like it was like I think I was doing a lot of like housework, and I was really tired, and I felt like that need again. I felt that there was a great deficit, so I was like feeling like I need 2 hours now. I need absolute quiet. I need it, and it just wasn't. There was not going to be absolute quiet for 2 hours. So I lay down, and after about 20 minutes of laying down, already some of my tiredness was alleviated. And I was able to, like, in the end, I did sleep a little bit. But even before then, had I gotten up then, already there was a little more rest in my body from that, you know, that 20 minutes of not even falling asleep. So, or for example, on a Shabbos afternoon, what I've started to do, and this has changed my Shabbos significantly, because I know I think, and for many mothers, Shabbos afternoon is a hard time of the week. And for many of us, it doesn't feel like a day of rest. But what I started to do is, like, in the past, I felt I had all these expectations on myself that, you know, oh, I cannot rest. I have to watch my kids all the time. I have to be present. I really should even be playing with them or reading books with them or whatever it was. And I started to, like just a little bit question the should, and again to recognize where am I now, and can I actually play with them, or am I really in a headspace to, you know, be so present, and to accept where I was, to recognize that maybe this is not something I can provide right now. And what I would do for myself is I would, you know, I wanted to rest. I didn't want to be spending the whole afternoon entertaining everyone. And what I found was really, really helpful was I would tell the kids, I'm going to go lay down in my room, and I'm totally okay with them coming in usually, and I'll be like, you can come in, you can play next to me if you want. I just want to lay down. I want to be resting. So even though I'm not getting that like door closed, quiet for 3 hours, sleeping a whole afternoon, I'm getting like rest. I'm laying down in my bed for a few hours, and everybody could come play around me. They could read books. Sometimes I read, sometimes I do fall asleep. Then someone wakes me up, okay, and then I fall back asleep, or I talk to them, or it's just kind of like I let go a little bit of all the expectations of who I should be at that time. And I also let go of the absolute, like, 100% of rest on Shabbos afternoon. And so at least I'm laying down, and it makes such a difference. Literally such a difference.
Yeah, and then there could be many people who are gonna say, wait, like that's not gonna work for me. Like I can't rest when there's noise around me, when there's kids around me. Like that's not gonna be restful at all. And I think this is also another thing we wanted to what's the word, address here is that it really like sometimes we have to be creative because like something different things are going to work for different people, and like you're sharing your personal things that work for you. I could share personal things that work for me, but it's not always going to be like a one recipe for everyone. So really the idea is that like, okay, you know what you need, like tune into your body. What do you need right now? And then like, okay, how can I get it? It might not be a straightforward path because life is a little hectic, but what would work in your life? Like that would be really like the invitation to see what could work for you.
Yeah. And then actually expecting that it's probably going to be a little messy. Like it's not going to be like so like wrapped up perfectly with a bow. Like, but again, back to the idea of like the 1%, the 2% more rest, and really like don't underestimate how powerful it actually does shift. It does make a shift. And yeah, it makes a difference. It really, really does.
Yeah, and I think also another thing we were mentioning before is it really matters a lot how we like what value we put for our own needs. Like, meaning if we're caring for our children and we're caring for other people, but like, are we like the last person on our list? Are we the first person on our list? Are we equal with everyone else? Like, where do we put ourselves on that scale? And like, just value as a person, like we said, like not just someone who takes care of other people, but like who are we as a person? How do we value ourselves as a person? Because how we value ourselves will essentially inform how we care for ourselves, like automatically.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that a very helpful way that can sometimes bring a sense of valuing ourselves on a practical level that may be very helpful is that when I'm doing something for myself, can I try? And I want to acknowledge that what I'm about to say may actually feel triggering for some people. And if it feels too triggering, honor that. Like, take it super, super gentle if needed, or don't do it at all. But the idea that when doing something for ourselves, to bring in the gentleness that we would that we would give a newborn. Can I treat myself or my body or whatever it is that I'm doing with that sense of sensitivity and gentleness that I treat a newborn with? So for example, like if I'm like, I washed my face and I'm rubbing my face hard with a towel, like rubbing and finishing the face, if I bring the experience of gentleness into that, it can start to bring into our physical body the awareness that we are so valuable. And if instead of rubbing my face hard and fast, I slow that down, again, back to slowing down, and I dry my face gently and slowly. It's about, you see, it's very like, in a way we could get caught up in like telling ourselves in our mind, like I really am valuable and I deserve to be cared for. But we want to bring it into our body. And we bring it into our body through practical actions, through actually how we physically treat ourselves. And so in a way, just not to have it just be stuck in our heads, although eventually it'll go from our heads into our body, hopefully over time. But that's one way that can help, like, bring that sense of value and self-worth into the nurturing things that we do for ourselves.
Yeah, and it really goes both ways, right? Like I said before, how we care ourselves will inform how we value ourselves will inform how we care for ourselves, but also how we care for ourselves helps us feel valued by ourselves.
Yes,
So it's really like
ways.
one way. So it's really, I guess, it just starts somewhere. Like it won't be easy necessarily the first time, but like once you get the ball rolling, any habit, it will,
Yeah. I think sometimes, like just one thing I wanted to revisit, like what we were saying before, is that I think one of the biggest blocks to caring for ourselves is the blocks of the should. There is the should that lives above us and like weighs down on us, but I should be doing something else, or I should. And we feel it in our bodies. Like if we're able to slow down for a minute and just like be still and notice, like, is there like a should that's living in me right now? And the first step may just be noticing it, and maybe we're still going to end up doing the should. That's okay,
And maybe the should would be caring for ourselves, but then it becomes like that checklist we were talking about.
You
Yeah.
know, I have this like theory that there are 4 general categories that get in the way of our being able to be nurturing to our children, and I'm thinking now that it can actually apply so well to what gets in the way of us nurturing ourselves. Would you? I can tell it to you really quick if there's time.
Yeah, sure. Please.
Great. So the first category of what gets in the way of us being able to nurture and be compassionate to our children is just practical, the practical stuff in life. We're too tired. We're hungry. We're stressed. We're running late. You know, even maybe we have stress in other relationships in our lives, and that impacts just practical stuff. The second thing that sometimes gets in the way of being able to be nurturing to our children is that we just like, maybe we're lacking skills. Like we just don't know actually what to do. We feel helpless when our child is having a tantrum or when their kids are fighting. And so we end up getting aggravated because we feel helpless, and it's very, very common and very understandable. And the third category is beliefs. And this one I'm very, very passionate about. But the beliefs that we hear around us in society about, how kids should speak to their parents. And so then when our child's not speaking to us that way, we get stressed and we have this belief that something's wrong with our child or wrong with us, and so on and so forth. So beliefs can sometimes interfere with being able to be as compassionate as we would like to be. And then the fourth category is trauma, that if someone has a history of complex trauma, relational trauma, and maybe it's something they're not yet aware of, sometimes we don't even know that that's in our story, that could be that could also get in the way, where somebody may know all the right parent, they may be very familiar with gentle parenting, they may have worked through the beliefs and so on, and they still struggle, and that could be because there's like, maybe some healing, waiting to be seen, done, whatever. So now I'm thinking that it could actually apply so well to caring for ourselves too, that on a practical level, it gets, just we're too rushed, or we're too stressed, or our lives are, a hamster wheel, we're like racing. And then maybe the skills is like, well, I don't know how to find the time, or I don't know, the kind of the practice, that side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the belief, and that's what I was saying before, that's why I thought of it, because like the shoulds, the beliefs, like, oh, but I should be making my kids a better supper, or yeah, that could interfere with being able to nurture ourselves.
Right.
And then even trauma can interfere with us being able to nurture ourselves, because of course, if there is that inherent struggle to know that we're valuable, to know that we're worthy, that could be a challenge. And it's these are just some things to notice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's so intertwined. Like, I know I could just speak for myself. I know that becoming a parent was like the biggest shift in my life, and that probably woke up everything in me that needed to be worked on. So like, that's just what it does. So yeah, like I know, and also something that came up for me when you were talking about like, having compassion for our children when they're acting differently than we would expect from society. Like that's totally directed for ourselves as well. Look, let's say when our children are acting out and it's hard and we're just, it's just, I know for myself, like especially if I'm in a deficit, like I just start getting a headache, and it's just really hard for me to be present and hold space and just like be calm. And I think, and it might even be a prerequisite before showing up for our children to just really like show up for ourselves and like have that compassion for ourselves. Like, yeah, this is hard, and this is, this sucks, and it's like a really hard situation to deal with. And like, no, I don't want a kid screaming in my ears for the next half hour. It's not an ideal situation. Like really like boils my blood pressure. So, yeah, so like really like that, just having that compassion for ourselves is a form of nurturing ourselves and having self-care. So even just these little things, it's really like we said it before, it's a lot more mindset. And yeah, sometimes it's practical tools and doing things for ourselves as well, but like so much of self-care and like nurturing ourselves is how we view ourselves, how we show up for ourselves, even just in that split second of, oh, this is hard, like I know I am here, like even just showing up for ourselves. So
that's like, yeah. I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you remembered that. Because that is one of the greatest things we could do for ourselves, when there are those times where we actually literally cannot think of a way. There is no way to step away from a stressful situation or and just taking that split second to see ourselves.
Yeah.
I love it. So powerful.
Yeah. And I know also, like, okay, this was just personal for me, but I know that if I had a deficit of being cared for, or taking care of myself, or letting myself be cared for, whatever it was, and this was before, like, this was like way in the beginning, and parenting is such a journey, but in the beginning, like, I was resentful that I'm taking care of my kids, but like, I also need to be cared for, and there was, I think, this little like resentment inside, like when I would show up for my kids, but like I knew I didn't have whatever I was giving them. So that's why, like, when I did start showing up for myself and caring for myself, and this whole journey of menstrual cycle awareness helped me so much in that sense of, like, honoring my times, honoring what I need, and honoring my body and my flow and my rhythm. So that's changed immensely how I showed up for my kids and my family and everyone else as well. Because when you're in a deficit, automatically you show up differently. And like we said before, it's not the point, it's not the reason why we should care ourselves, but automatically that's what happens. Like our cup is full and it can overflow, and it's a beautiful place to give from. Like my mothering now, of course there's the heart, I'm not negating that, but like I feel like I'm in a much more wholesome place with it. Like, yeah, it's so much better to give from overflowing, because like I'm giving for myself and I'm letting it pour over to the people I love, versus like, oh, I have to give, but I'm so empty. Like, it's not even wholesome giving.
I know. And, I've seen like how it's, we get to go deeper and deeper and deeper into it. It's an ongoing process. Like, I thought that I slowed my life down significantly when, especially when in general, and especially when we chose to homeschool our children, that was like an intentional way of slowing down. And yet I'm at a point where I'm like, wow, there's another layer. I'm ready for another layer of slowing down. Like, there's more. There's just more. And it's beautiful. It's actually beautiful.
Yeah, and also, like, I love that you mentioned that, because I think you're the perfect person to speak to that, because a lot of parents have that empty stretch when their kids are in school, and the kids aren't there. So, like, I know for myself, sometimes I would wonder, like, whoa, if my kids would be home all day, when would I have time for myself? But I know that, that's where the creativity comes in, how you work it out for you and your family. But that's why I love that you're speaking to this, because, it's even an extra layer there.
Yeah, it's what I'm exactly in the middle of figuring out right now, is just really trying to bring more, trying to find that space to take care of myself within my children being home. And it's certainly not, it's certainly a challenge, but I'm trusting in the process. I'm trusting that I'm going to figure it out slowly, and it's and I'm right there. Like, this is live.
Yeah, I think many of us experienced this, 3 years, 2 years, 3 years ago, when we had COVID and we were home for a few months with everyone. I know it's very different situation when someone is like had the structure with homeschooling, and I guess that's what we're in the middle of figuring out. But yeah, it was hard to find space then, absolutely, but equally important too.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, sometimes like when it's the most important, it's the hardest. So like,
Right.
I feel like that's when, yeah, like, let's say such a situation when it's like really hard to, let's say it's like there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's just really, like, you really need that time and that self-care or that space for yourself, but it's just too much going on. Like, what would you tell for people?
Well, sometimes for myself, like, it's like what you said before. Sometimes it's just literally stopping for a minute, putting my hand on my heart and talking to myself and just seeing myself from, oh my goodness, this is so much.
Yeah.
That's like, sometimes it's just that. Sometimes it's going to be, letting the kids watch a video, even though it's not my choice activity, because right now that would be better than the alternative. Or sometimes it's, you know what, just yesterday it was like, we have to go out of the house now. We are going to the park. And I pushed through the process of getting all the little ones dressed, and it was hard. And I took a break at one point because, this one was resisting putting on their shoes, and I just paused, and then I came back to it. It's like, we just have to go out of the house now. And so we went out. Every situation is different. Slowing down in the moment and just pausing everything, or dropping all expectations, like dropping all the plans. Like, you know what? I'm not going to clean the house now, and it's going to be okay. Like, whatever it is, stopping, pausing, breathing for a minute, and just seeing like what do I need now?
Right. Yeah, and then just also another thing that came up as you were saying that, and I guess this is something that I could offer from the perspective of cycle awareness. I know this has helped me a lot. When we like know, let's say, okay, this is obviously not going to be applicable to everyone, but like tracking our cycle and knowing what's coming in a general basic sense. Like it might not be perfect, but like I know for myself, I once scheduled a huge project, right like the week before my period. And I didn't. This was before I was like very aware of everything, and it hit me afterwards. Like, why did I schedule it that week? Like, it was just so much more overwhelming. And really, like that. That's when it hit me. Like, you know what? I really need to schedule my life according to my cycle because for me, it just knowing what's going on for me is just an extra piece of information to help me, right? It's not limiting me, it's helping me to show up the way I want to show up. So if I could schedule like this big project by, the second or third week of my cycle versus the fourth week or whatever it is, I'm giving myself a gift. So it's just another perspective. I know it's not always possible, but again, the 1% shift, it's not always possible to like schedule everything accordingly. And this is really the crux of this conversation. Like, how could I can't schedule my life according to my cycle because life goes on. And that's true, but there are certain things that are in our control. And if we focus on those things first, like even that relief could really be so helpful. Like even if it's just not scheduling appointments in that time or things that can be overwhelming for us, like having that awareness, like I know for me, it helped me so much in that sense.
Yeah.
And then also another thing that came up was how sometimes there are seasons. Like now I have a little baby, a few months old, and I don't get optimal sleep. It's just a part of life, or whatever else doesn't happen. And it's really like I just keep reminding myself, okay, this is a season, and live in the moment, be present with what is, and the next season, whatever. Like and having little kids, having toddlers, whatever it is, like each season has its thing. And I know it's like. And again, that's why we bring in also the compassion piece of like being with what is, because it's not meant to negate how hard it is. And it's not like, oh yeah, people say, oh, it passes quicker than you think and just enjoy the moment. Like, no, don't say that to someone struggling, But just for me, like to remind myself of that, this is a season, like that's what helped me personally, but not if someone is struggling to just go tell them that,
Right. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of like, oh, you should appreciate it because it's going to, and that actually is super diminishing for many people. Maybe not for everyone, but that could be diminishing. But like you say, it's like for yourself, you find it helpful when you kind of like sink into recognizing, also like recognizing like it's not forever. Like this is now and it's going to get easier.
And to get help if you can.
Yeah.
Like, I know for me, like it's so hard to ask for help, but it's a game changer sometimes,
I just finally recently got cleaning help that just is just the best cleaning help I ever had. I haven't had that much cleaning help over the years, but she's the best. Thank God. And it's definitely it's a big difference. Yeah. It's so supportive. She's so supportive. And it took time. I had to work through inner blocks. There was a lot of shoulds. There was a lot of judgments I had, things that I had to work through, and I did. And I had support from someone to work through that, and it made a difference.
Yeah, and that too is like it's gonna look different for everyone. Like someone might need cleaning help, someone might need a mental helper, someone might need just like a family member, or just even to like do less, expect less, whatever it looks like. Yeah, it's going to be so different for everyone. So it's not, again, like I think the main point is it's not what worked for you or worked for me, or like, find what works for you. Like, but then again, my hope is that you feel empowered to like honor yourself enough to say this has to work and I'm going to find a way.
Right. Because the bottom line is you deserve to be taken care of because you are. That's it.
Yeah.
Because you are.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. We're approaching 10 o'clock. Can you believe it?
Oh my goodness, this is so fun.
Yeah.
You have an offer. You have something really special going on next week.
Yeah.
You want to tell everyone about it?
Sure. So we have I started doing it last Rosh Chodesh, a women's circle. It's called a Sacred Circle. And it's just I do so much on Instagram where I share about these concepts of, honoring our cycle, honoring resting and menstruation, and like honoring our ebb and flow. But there's only so much that we can actually capture on Instagram, and then we do it in person. And it's not just about that. Like, I bring in a woman in Jewish history, and we talk about the theme of the month, like the mazel and the different things going on and the new moon, and it's really beautiful. And it's in person, so it's in Brooklyn. That's where it is. So if anyone is in Brooklyn or nearby, DM me or look at my feed for on stories or for the information, or you can DM me. I'm happy to answer any questions. So and I don't know when I'll do it again, because then it's Nissen, and then it's like a lot of busy stuff happening. I'm going to be offering the FAM class series, and I know a lot of you have been waiting for more information on that. It's on the wait, like there's a wait list for that, so I'm getting ready to send that email. So that's going to be like also in the next few months. So I'm finishing up my internship, going to graduate soon, going to be a certified fertility awareness educator next year, like at the end of the year. So I don't know, like this is just something that I've just been excited to do now. I don't know when I'll do it again, but like this is happening on Monday night in 8:30.
And when you shared that, I was thinking like, I want to come, but like I didn't think I could make it this time, and I was like, maybe next time. Now you said it might not be, so I have to think twice before I.
Yeah, come, please.
So maybe I will come. I'll let you know. And I also have. I'm so excited, and in a few weeks I'm going to share this on my stories, and I have this program that I'm so excited to start, which is going to be called Mother Together, which is going to be like your village for a week. And for 1 week, we join together on a Zoom call, a connection call, just a call where we connect, we support each other, and just a week of knowing and just really sinking into the experience of knowing that we're not alone, that we are mothering together. We are all doing this together. And that is going to be on my stories soon. So look.
Yeah, and both of these offers really are nurturing the mother. Like, give that gift to yourself, to have that support, to have that, connection and all that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And yeah, this was such a great call, Pessy. It was amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm so happy we had this conversation. I know we might not have covered everything, so if anyone still has more questions on this topic, feel free to send it in, and either me or Rivkie could answer it, or could put on further discussions on our stories. I hope you gained from this. I know I definitely did, and I hope you did, and everyone else. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really special.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Take care. Bye.
Take care.